Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here. So you just pulled Rina, or perhaps you're aiming to get her, you really like her design and you want to get her. I'm going to help you build teams for her and also tell you exactly what makes her special versus the other characters in the game as well. And you can check out the other teams guides that we have, or even our tier list if you are still confused which is the one that's right for you. But anyways, this video is specifically for people who really love Rina, and want to build teams for her. What is she unique for and what do I think makes her very special? She's a super beginner-friendly unit, but also not only for beginners, but also offers a mix of supportive ability and kiting ability. Let's talk about this with our first team that I want to mention, which is the Speedrunner Team, or the new to ARPG group of people, action RPG games. Now, what do these two groups of people have in common is they don't want to take damage, be it because you are not really good at enemy mechanics, enemy bosses, you can't really react quickly to the enemies yet because you're still trying to ease into this new game mode, or perhaps you're a speedrunner and you're tackling content that you should not be tackling because you are insanely under leveled. Especially if you're a content creator or you're a person that just wants to clear as much as the game and you like challenges, this team composition likely would be much more better and beneficial for you. Rina outperforms in this area because she has a strategy. She can execute the hit and run strategy that a lot of people you might see doing. What do? You shoot like a couple of bullets, you fly, she floats. She has a lot of mobility, a lot of range. So you just keep kiting, shoot and kite. If there is no timer on the clock, she clears it very, very well. But if you are trying to like clear with max amount of stars with the fastest time possible, Rina probably won't get you there in terms of this team that I'm going to mention. But this is something that is worth mentioning, at least for the early part of the game for any of you who are interested. She of course skills well, but we'll talk about that in another team. Let's first talk about this. Other units which I think work really, really well are units, for example, like Billy. Billy pretty much does what Rina does, but this is like having two lives. If you get hit one time and you get insta-killed because you're a speedrunner, Billy does almost similar things, just with slightly lower mobility as Rina and doesn't really buff the team. So Billy's like a bit inferior in that sense to Rina's ability to help proc the other DPS. If you have faster hands and you are looking for more offensive units, I think Nekomata is probably a very solid pick for that. Otherwise, if you're a new player and you don't care about one-shots, you're just trying to survive, Ben is a very, very good option available to you. He provides a very thick shield when you hold it down. So if you're not really good at dodging or you tend to use up your dodge counters too much, Ben has a lot of chunkiness and maybe you need to switch into a character to take some damage. Consider putting Ben in your roster. He is quite chunky. He builds for defense. He has quite good amounts of shielding, good amounts of HP as well, chunkiness to help you survive, especially if you're newer to ARPGs. Speedrunners, Ben might not be that good because you don't want to take damage at all. You probably want to just like swap into the character, dodge a few times and get out as quickly as possible. In that case, I would suggest low fail time characters with very low hit lag. Characters like Nekomata is excellent for this purpose. She has, out of all the characters in the game, probably the lowest animation delay out of all of them. Other characters that is good is like Lycan, also has quite low animation delay that you can play. And I think 4 stars, you don't really have too much option. Unbi is like probably the best in terms of an offensive unit with low animation delay. There are some things that you can consider, especially if you are a day 1 player trying to push as deep as you can into the game. Do consider this, or if you are a new player to ARPG games. Now, I know not everyone is going to be a speedrunner, not everyone is new to the games, but there are going to be a lot of people who are really strictly free to play, and perhaps you watching right now are thinking of not spending any money. The best thing about Zenless Zone Zero is you can start with most characters and you can skill diff the game. If you're good at the game, you most likely will push a lot. Where resource allocation and character management comes into hand is to meet DPS checks. So clearing the game, no problem, but to DPS check, that's where team comms come about. In my opinion, the best teams at launch for her, if you are talking about pure free-to-play, probably will be like a double electric com of perhaps a character like you have Unbi Damara, and maybe you can run a Corin at the next slot. So you have 1 support, you have 1 stun, you have 1 attack, giving you a good variety. But in my opinion, if you are doing a bit of pulls, you maybe are getting some characters. I think the best electric DPS right now for most teams is Anton. he's probably going to be like the ideal choice for a lot of people as well. And then you can run like Ambi Damara in the synergy slot. That allows you to activate like all of their passive abilities without a character like Corrin, who loves a bit more on-field time and requires the enemy to be stunned as well. These three are like much more flexible together with a bit of stun, a bit of melee, a bit of support buffing the entire team. The one caveat though is, as we mentioned, Reena is actually scaling better into the future once we have a 5-star DPS, and that's what I want to talk about. So I talked about here, offers decent support for teammates but still requires a solid S-rank electric attack unit. Right now, the biggest concern of players that are choosing between Reena and Grace, and I want to touch on it a little bit here as well. You can play both of them together, no problem. If you slot in, for example, like Anton in the last slot, perfectly fine as well. But the question a lot of you might have if you have lack of resources to get both of them is, which do you pick up and which is better? I think Reena offers a longer term angle of not only like good in the early game beginners learning the game, but if you are planning to pull for electric 5-star, electric S rank limited in future, Reena offers you some sort of buffing. Grace is more of a damage dealer through the anomaly class. Doesn't do so much in terms of like buffing the team's attack and stuff. Hyper carries likely will still care a little bit more about Reena compared to Grace. Grace is more of like a sub DPS, offering you a lot more anomaly application in that sense. So some flexibility to exit electric teams. Grace are more focused on electric teams. That's just a quick comparison that I want to talk about in case any of you who are sitting on the fence, which reflects in mono electric teams. And the other team that we'll talk about in a little bit too. So you have Reena here, your eventual 5-star. Let's just put Anton here, which we talked about. And of course, the last slot here, I recommend any stun electric here. For example, like Ambi, which we discussed. But I want to use this section really mainly to discuss between Grace as well as Reena, what differences there is. And Grace doesn't really like to play outside of mono electric because of the buffs that she does, unless she's proccing anomaly. Whereas for Reena, you get access to other characters who want to proc anomaly too. For example, like Piper, Lucy, I think Lucy or Piper, I have no idea. One of them is of each anyway. A team, like for example, a double electric team, if you eventually upgrade to a 5-star, dual electric, a lot of electric application. So even though none of them are anomaly, the chances of you proccing shock will be there. And then you rely on your final mono slot here to proc disorder and whatever other things that they do. For now, we only have a 4-star, but once we get a 5-star limited disorder and a 5-star electric character, you can just swap them in. I think Reena will see a lot more value then as well. Very interesting to think about. This team was not possible without, of course, the new characters being released in the game. So I'm very, very interested into seeing what she can do. Unfortunately, Reena doesn't work too well solo electric because she doesn't really proc that much shock. And she requires to be on field a lot in order to proc a lot of electric, which is not really very ideal, especially if she's not like a damage dealer for your team. But yeah, if you guys like this video and you want to maybe find out more about other free-to-play comps, or perhaps you want to know the other standard characters, which one is best for you, check out this tier list video that we have right here. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for watching. Share this if you know any other Reena mains out there. And thank you guys again so much for watching. See you in the next video.